against xSix and a very, very heavy lineup of Zerg players tonight, as we are going into IPL's version of Tal'Darim Altar. And I think this is, do you know if MLG took down Tal'Darim Altar perhaps?
I'm not quite sure. There's a lot of versions of these different maps on the ladder at this point, so finding the one that you're looking for sometimes can be a challenge, and sometimes the tournaments also remove them as well. So we're playing IPL 3's version. I'm sure it's pretty similar to all the other versions. Let you intro the players here.
Alright, so Rock responding as the purple Protoss player on the top right-hand side of the map. Meanwhile, on the bottom left-hand side, we have xSix's McKinnon spawning as the light blue Zerg. Zerg versus Protoss, a matchup that I know Rocker is very, very well versed in. And first thing to note, there is no crazy 7-pool action coming in from xSix's McKinnon, something that is a little bit of an opening that we sometimes see, especially on Tal'Darim Altar versus Protoss.
Yeah, I actually see it quite a bit, just sort of metagaming the Protoss, making sure that they don't get that fast expand. Though the game transitions as Protoss have seen that more and more. They've really learned that they get the cannon down by their nexus, then they start the gateway there, then they sort of go to gateway tech, and they can take that fast expansion just a few minutes later pretty safely. And then the Zerg is a little bit behind economy-wise. So McKinnon instead going to be playing more standard here. I imagine he will be getting that spawning pool in just a moment, and then perhaps the hatchery to follow soon after. Actually, it might look like he's going hatch first, so interesting decision there. He will have to defend against some sort of cannon pressure, perhaps, if Rocker decides to go forge first.
Alright, we'll see what's going to happen. The probe is going to spot that hatchery. He may try to go for a nexus first, knowing that little bit of tidbit of information. We are going to see the probe now just wander around. The probe making sure to just hug around on the inside of the base, make sure that there is no spawning pool, no cancellation on that hatchery, as we should be seeing the spawning pool now placed down right next to that hatchery. I don't think Zerg players can really hide their early tech buildings. One of the weaknesses of Zerg, since they do have to build on creep.
Yeah, now Rocker's going to place down that pylon. He actually hasn't started his forge yet, so he's hoping to pull off a number of drones to, stop the mining a little bit of McKinnon. But yeah, McKinnon now going to pull those drones. Perhaps he just saw it. So there's going to be 5 drones here to take down that pylon. And really, this is an empty threat because a gateway going up for Rocker rather than a forge. So he's just making sure that McKinnon is not going to be able to mine here quite as well as he'd like. Actually, quite a few drones have been pulled off. 8 so far made their way to the natural at any given point in this game. So Rocker definitely getting his money worth with that pylon.
Alright, so you now see the drones are pulling off. They pretty much know that that pylon was an empty threat. Zerglings are going to come over to finish it. And now all the probe can really do is, you know what, the empty threat is gone. Half of the shields on that pylon, or half the hit points on the pylon are destroyed, as the Zerglings are now going to look to chase away that probe. And not quite sure who came out ahead there. 100 resources lost for Rocker, but a lot of mining time lost for McKinnon.
Yeah, definitely. And Rocker actually had a second probe coming across the field for just a moment there. So I thought he was going to start doing something cute, maybe with some proxies, maybe even some more cannon play on the low ground. But instead, he's just going to be transitioning here to double gateway with a forge. He has no gas as of yet. The first assimilator just going down now, so he won't be able to start +1 early on. And here comes the cybernetics core. We'll see how many zealots he comes out with. Those early zealots, especially on a map like this, can really shut down a third. If the Zerg player decides to take that southern base or even that western base, it's not connected by creep. Your Zerglings will not have speed early on, and those zealots can definitely take down a hatchery as it's being created.
Alright, we'll see what's going to be happening next. That photon cannon is just now getting completed. Zealots are now trying to clean up some Zerglings. One Zergling down. Second Zergling looks like it will be able to get away in time. And so far, this is really turning into a heavy macro game, but McKinnon really droning up heavily now, getting 6 drones at a time, and meanwhile, Rocker supply blocking himself at 36 over 36. Not something you want to see from a player who really favors heavy macro.
And the double gas going up by Zerg, so he's going to be able to get his speed. We'll see what he spends his second 100 gas on. I imagine it will be Lair. Here it is. So he's going to be teching up pretty quickly. Like you mentioned, he's got a pretty nice economy established. It's 34 drones to 34 probes, excuse me. But more and more drones coming out by McKinnon. I'll be interested to see what sort of lair tech he goes for and how soon he decides to take a third, if at all. He really needs a third to afford any decent amount of lair tech, be they mutas or infestors. So should be interesting to see in the next few minutes what sort of decisions the Zerg player makes.
All right, now Rocker is going to go his typical economic style. He is taking down the rocks at the 12, or I'll call the 1 o'clock position here. And he is going to get a very, very nice head start in terms of his economy if he starts warping in that nexus. So far, we don't see a macro hatchery coming in from Makinjin just quite yet. This could have been more a little bit based upon the map play, knowing that his opponent would not be able to set up an easy third base, as normally Zerg players want to set up a third base well before the 8-minute mark. And now if Rocker is able to set up his third base faster than the Zerg, he's going to be at a very, very nice timing, as Makinjin may think that he has a good lead.
So it looks like we're going to have 2 base muta here, which is, it's not a great build going into the late game, because you cut some expansion, some economy. You're really not able to afford a ton of mutas off just the 4 geysers, but there's a timing where if the Protoss is not prepared, you're able to get out, you know, those 7 to 10 early mutas, and if you can do a lot of economic damage, you can definitely tilt the game in your favor. Right now, we have Rocker does have his warp gate tech done, so he's adding a 3rd, 4th, and 5th gateway about to finish. So we'll see whether he's got enough defenses here against these early mutas. He's already got a cannon in the mineral line at the natural, and I imagine some warp-ins of stalkers could be on the way to defend against the early mutas. The Spire not quite done, and Rocker investing in fact, some sentries, another cannon in the main natural, or in the main mineral line. So he's going to be pretty well defended against this low number of early mutas, and really Makinjin is sacrificing an earlier third, just now getting down his third base, and Rocker's going to be a little bit ahead of him economy-wise, 3 base Protoss to 3 base Zerg.
All right, Makinjin did scout out that the rocks were destroyed over here at the 1 o'clock position, but it did cost him an Overlord. Rocker did have those sentries in position. Makinjin now 88, Rocker at 87 right now. We are going into Robotics Facility and a Twilight Council, so we could get Blink in just a moment. Level 2 weapons upgrade as well. Probe now trying to perhaps set up another expansion here, but Makinjin does have a Zergling already lying in wait, making sure to shut that down. I do not believe the Zergling spots the Probe. The Probe does not spot the Zergling, as here we go. There is the wall off. Photon cannons now coming in as well, and if the Zerglings wait too long, those photon cannons are going to shut this down.
So we've got 11 mutas on the field as these Zerglings start attacking third, and nice force field. They're going to trap a lot of those lings. They'll go down very quickly. At the same time, the mutas wrecking havoc on the natural mineral line, going immediately for the cannon, and Rocker doing his best to warp in stalkers here to try to take down those mutas. 13 mutas on the field. They encounter another cannon at the main mineral line and several stalkers. Right now there are 9 stalkers out for Rocker. He's doing a very nice job positioning wise, able to take down a few of those mutas. A lot of those mutas very low as well. We'll see how many workers were killed. Looks like 8 in total, so not a ton of economic damage there, and especially because Rocker is on a safe 3 bases now, he's going to have a very nice economy.
All right, we'll see what the natural follow-up will be here. All of those mutas, as you mentioned, 2 of them in the red, some in the orange and the yellow. Makinjin trying to add in more and more. Photon cannons now trying to come in as well. Probes now, once again, in a full retreat. A forge is being built. The photon cannon at the front door still providing a little bit of cover, as the stalkers could blink over in just a moment. Still not quite done with that research as of yet, as now the third base may get attacked as well.
Yeah, and this is a really nice position for Zerg. He's going to be able to bounce between the third and the main here very easily with that big chasm between the 2 bases, taking down a ton of probes there. 14 more probes taken down in the second wave of attacks, and not a lot of mutas have gone down here. Finally, the blink does finish. Those stalkers going to have a nice blink there into those mutas, taking down a few more mutas, but not before those mutas take down another probe or 2 there. Another blink, really nice, takes down another muta or 2, but still 15 mutas on the field. Makinjin now establishing a 4th base, doing a nice job droning up on these bases. He will soon be up to about 85 drones, so he did a nice amount of economic damage there to the Protoss player. He's going to need a follow-up though. He's got a Roach Warren and an Infestation Pit on the way. I feel like he needs to transition into sort of a late game after he done a little bit of economic damage there.
All right, we'll see what's going to happen. McKinnon needs to get a lot more mileage. As long as he can get a lot more probe kills with these Mutalisks, he'll be in really, really just great position. In comes the Mutalisk going after Sentry. This is a huge, huge move. In comes the Stalkers, but with no anti-air, with no Phoenixes, he can't see up onto the high ground, and that is a bit of a problem. The Stalkers could have perhaps tried to blink, getting in a little bit more damage, and almost taking down a Mutalisk, but once again, natural regeneration for the win on a Mutalisk.
Yeah, that's really big too, because those 4 or 5 sentries were really going to be able to control any Roach battles. The Roach Horn coming out a little bit late, as we see a nice surround here by McKinnon. He's going to be able to catch a lot of these Stalkers, but I think the upgrades are going to be too good here on the Stalkers, as they do have Blink, as they're going to be able to focus down these Mutas. It looks like a defensive retreat here coming for Rocker, so he's going to pull back to the safety of his cannons. But like I was saying, without those sentries on the field, and the remaining sentries did go down there, the Roaches, even without speed, we just see Glio Reconstitution starting now. Not going to have to worry about force fields, which can be really big in any battles where you don't have Roach speed.
All right, it looks like a Templar Archives is going down. Psystorm, most likely the weapon of choice with those High Templars, or perhaps just Archons as level 3 weapons upgrade comes in. Level 2 armor upgrades coming in as well. The Mutalisks are upgraded 1-0, Zerglings upgraded 1-1. And this is going to be a little bit of an interesting timing. Rocker is going to have superior upgrades for a little bit of time, and if he can hold on to this, he should be in great position. Zerglings, Mutalisks now engaging. The Zerglings trying to take down the Stalkers. Stalkers just trying to survive the Zerglings, as some of them made it up onto the high ground, not all of them there. And Rocker, I'm not quite sure who has lost more. Rocker has lost a little bit more so far, as now we are going into Tier 3 and Infestors for Zerg.
Yeah, I'm really impressed by his transitions, both his 3rd and 4th timing very quickly there when he knew he was able to expand safely, and then the timing of this hive. 16 minutes in, he knows he needs Tier 3, so he's keeping on the pressure a little bit with these Lings and these Mutas, but at the same time, here comes the Ultralisk Cavern, perhaps a Greater Spire going to be on the way as well, and he's got those support Infestors out. They help in any engagement, in any unit composition, so Zerg, really nice job so far transitioning through different tech paths and expanding when he's able to.
All right, Rocker will not be able to set up his 4th base at all. 12 o'clock position now getting cleaned up. McKinnon with a great single lone Zergling at the 11 or 12 o'clock location, able to clean that up. Zerglings now trying to push their way in, but there are photon cannons shutting that down on the back door, and Rocker not in a good position at all. Does he have a strategy in order to be able to push out? He needs some High Templars or Dark Templars to merge into Archons to really deal with the Mutalisk Ball. An Archon Toilet would work out very well. Zerg is now ready to charge up the front door.
Yeah, Storm just finished in time for this engagement. Here come the Lings. We'll see if a Storm goes down. A big Storm goes down on all those Lings. Another one goes down. A number of feedbacks go down on those Infestors, preventing them from getting off important fungals. A lot of damage done there by the defending Protoss player. The entire army of McKinnon basically evaporated under those storms, and that was something I was really worried about, as McKinnon did have the supply advantage there by about 20 supply, but it was very flimsy units in those Lings and those Mutas, and now we see Rocker did a nice job against those units, but we've got 8 Ultras on the way and a number of Lings on the way. We've got Adrenal Glands just finishing now for McKinnon as well, so he's keeping on with the macro. He had a lot of bank going into that encounter, so he's just hoping to get some high gas units, either those High Templar or a number of those Stalkers in that last engagement.
Yeah, that last engagement was absolutely beautiful. Rocker at one point had about a 20 to 30 supply advantage, but McKinnon timed that so well. He had so much in the bank, trained up 8 more Ultralisks and said, you know what, I just threw away that army. You may think you're ahead, but right now you're still behind by about 40 food or 40 supply, and we'll see whether or not Rocker is able to deal any damage, as we once again see a cancellation over here at the 3 o'clock position. McKinnon doing a great job just shutting down expansions at any which way.
Yeah, we'll see if Rocker is able to catch these Lings, though, as they do try to retreat away from that expansion. So a canceled expansion, but all the Lings will go down. A pretty nice trade there for Rocker, and without Ling support, I think McKinnon's going to have to dump a lot more minerals into Lings here. He's down to about 1,000, so his bank is going away. He is on those nice 5 bases now, establishing that western position, but a hatchery will go down for McKinnon. Rocker looking pretty decent here. We'll see whether these Ultras really turn the tide of this next battle. They're going to be able to get in there on those Stalkers, especially with a nice fungal or two. They can make very quick work of those armored Stalkers.
All right, but the Stalkers having another plan, going in and trying to take down the 6 o'clock position. All of those units are now going to try to make their way back in. Ultralists are coming in. The Stalkers are blinking behind the mineral line. Zealots, there's a Psystorm just chomping away and getting through a lot of those Zerglings. Archons up on the high ground. Stalkers are in a very, very great position trying to minimize their damage. Archon up on the high ground here, and the Ultralists are getting destroyed. Meanwhile, on the front door, Stalkers are battling up against Ultralists over here. That pylon will fall rather quickly. What's going to happen? We still see a lot of Zealots and an Archon here, but the Ultralists cannot be battling up against Zealots and Archons. That is not what they want to be fighting up against, as we now see some High Templars should be merging into Archons in just a moment.
Yeah, Rocker going to lose a lot of high gas units here in those Archons and those High Templars. We saw that Mackenzie sort of gave up that base and backdoored the army of Rocker. He wasn't going to be able to get those Blink Stalkers as they were just so quick with that Blink, that mobility, but instead going for the remaining army. And some nice trades back and forth here. Rocker really has to get his army up and running again. He's got so many High Templar. He's got, looks like 6 of them on the field. Not much besides that, though. A few Immortals and Zealots.
All right, here we go. Rocker does have a lot of photon cannons here. The Zergings are going to try to crash in. Unfortunately, no shield upgrades on these photon cannons. Immortals are now trying to battle up. There's some Psystorms coming in, dealing some damage. They now need to merge into Archons if they want to do anything else. It doesn't look like that will be successful at all. And Mackenzie getting those Ultralists and doing a great job. And I don't think that Rocker will be able to get back into this. He had a really good timing at some point, able to trade some bases, but the Zerg engine just too strong.
Yeah, just falling apart a little bit there. Lost that army in the southern part of the map and then was not able to defend against this counterattack. Mackenzie's economy has been great all game long. His harassment has been great all game long. Rocker really hasn't been able to get comfortable on more than those 3 bases. And then, like you said, he really needed to merge those High Templar into Archons. Instead, just let them die for free, basically.
All right, we'll see what's happening. Immortals now being trained in order to counter the Ultralists, but you hear Broodlords now being added into the skies. A very, very dangerous composition, and I think this will be the final nail in the coffin for Rocker and his undefeated PvZ tech so far.
Yeah, we see a little bit of a Hail Mary coming here from Rocker. 2 Warp Prisms on the way, so I'm not quite sure what he hopes to warp in with those. Maybe some harassment units, but at this point, gosh, how many bases established for Mackenzie? He's got 5, 6, 7 bases at this point, so he can afford to lose one of those to a Warp Prism, even 2 to a Warp Prism, and still be really good.
All right, we'll see what's going to be happening now. You can see some Zealots are warping in off over here. Not quite sure the bottom right-hand side of the map what they're looking to do. In comes the Broodlords, and I believe that will be the GG. The Photon Cannons finally have some shield upgrades, but with no real way to deal with all of these units here. Stalkers, and what are these units doing? Dropping Immortals inside all of these Ultralists. The Ultralists are all falling, but the Broodlord's now cleaning that up, and there's the well-played GG by Rocker. Mackenzie giving a 2-0 lead over vVv.